Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Broadcasting direct into Decentraland as part of Metaverse Fashion Week. This is the third panel from the Boson Forum. We're here today to talk about the future of Digi-Physical fashion, whatever that means, and we'll get into that a little bit. So my name's Matt. I'll do a quick intro, and then we'll do some intros around the table. So I'm Matt. I'm from the core team at Boson. We've been working in Metaverse commerce since 2021. We participated in Metaverse Fashion last year. Today we're launching our Metaverse Commerce Toolkit, which enables anyone to configure retail experiences in any scene in Decentraland. We're launching today with a bunch of pilot partners, including our dear friends at DressX, but also Ouroboros, Fangang, Black Carrot, Paris, and a few others. And anyone can interact with our Metaverse Commerce Toolkit in any environment, buy a physical item, be confident you can either receive the item or the money back. So that kind of plugs into this sort of like, mega trend, meta trend, if you like, around what some people call Digi-Fizzy, some people call Fidgetals. And the sort of what we want to do is we want to talk today with some people who are not just getting to grips with that, but who are leading that and making history. So I'm joined by some fantastic leaders in the industry. Olga from DressX, pioneering digital fashion brand. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Hi, everyone.
Lauren from Metaverse Group, leading Metaverse brand consultants, implementers, developers. Zaf from Animoca, obviously games, Metaverse software company and VC. And obviously Blake, who runs the Farfetch Dream Assembly Accelerator program at OutlierVentures. So nice to see you all. I'll sort of start you all off and maybe give you a bit of an intro and just maybe give you one sort of initial question. Like, what do you see as sort of like major developments in the last couple of years based on what you're working on that tap into this big trend? Who wants to go first? Maybe Olga. Maybe you could take us off.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on the panel with Boson Protocol and to talk about digital experience. So yeah, what are the trends we see in recent years? We can see that people start looking into the digital assets, and they start to understand some kind of the value of the digital assets. Not so much, but little by little, it's becoming something that more and more people start to use, to implement. On our side at DressX, we are talking about digital fashion and the utility which we can bring to NFTs with digital fashion. We can see that people start trying digital fashion more and more. We are extending our ecosystem from just dressing people on the photos to more and more environments. So when we launched DressX, like almost 2.5 years ago, we were talking just only about dressing the people on the photo. And right now our ecosystem involves Web 2 environments, such as, for example, Zepeto or Roblox or Meta avatars, and Web3 ecosystems such as skins for Ready Player Me, for the Decentraland, for spatial, etc., etc. So people start using these digital assets more and more and become more familiar with them.
Thanks. Some interesting thoughts there about sort of crossover utility and multi-platform, Web 2 to Web 3 being a big thing. Thanks for that. Lauren, give us an intro and tell us from your perspective what's going on in the world right now.
Sure. So again, thank you to Boson for having me today. It's a nice chance to speak to everyone. As some of you may know, we began with Metaverse Fashion Week last year. It was launched on our land, 185 parcels. Intimately, obviously involved, and continued that this year with working with many amazing brands such as DKNY, Forever 21, etc. And I think our view is, when we looked at last year, most of the brands were looking at this from their perspective as a PR experiment, really to get at new demographics, new people, to really drive that need. And as we've watched it evolve or seen it evolve over the past couple of years, that change has really shifted. And as I think Olga well said, it's people are looking for much more utility than just a PR experiment, for lack of a better way of saying it. It's what do I get out of this? How do I care? Do I care about what I look like in a wearable? Do I care about, ROI? So we start to talk about things like the Boson Protocol and e-commerce. And do I go even further and look at, maybe I am just looking for a PR exposure. So therefore I'll go to Roblox with their 65 million daily users. But on the flip side, maybe I'm looking for more of an e-commerce experience. So maybe I'll do it in Decentraland or Spatial. And so therefore definitely multi-platform is another case. So it's really been an interesting and amazing evolution.
Zaf, you must be plugged into so many different participants and players in the ecosystem with, the network you have at Anamoka. Tell us what you're seeing.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. I'm leading strategic partnership at Anamoka brand. So we've been talking to a lot of fashion brands and like a lot of gaming studios. I think the major change in this year is that last year people would talk about like digital NFTs and then linked to physical items. But this year, I think a lot of brands would start asking about like the digital utilities, like what games can they be on, and they start to care about like demographic of the games and how many people in the metaverse, and they start to think about like how to lower the entry barrier, how to get like onboarding. And I think this is like a great change. So the brands are not only looking at selling at the first or just as a first batch, but they are looking for more sustainable development of the digital goods that they're developing. So I think it's a really good change. And we are actively investing and developing this space in terms of like gaming development to provide more experience for people to actually use their digital items in the digital world. So this is like some changes that we've been seeing. And we are launching some AAA games this year, and hopefully we'll bring more dynamic and like interactive experience for people to use their digital goods and wearables in the metaverse. You're on mute, Matt.
That's happened once. At least it was me. Got out of the way. So yeah, I really like that. Well, maybe we'll come back to this idea of sort of from innovation theatre to to real utility, because that really resonates with me. Thank you for that, Zach. And Blake, you're working with a huge range of early stage teams, with Farfetch, and interested in sort of what you see coming down the pipe. I suppose that's going to be influencing the Web3 and the mainstream in a couple of years' time.
Definitely, and such a pleasure to be here and such an honor to be sharing the stage with such exquisite panelists. So thank you very much for having me. As you pointed out, I'm part of OutlierVentures, responsible for the execution of the Dream Assembly Basecamp under strategic direction of Farfetch. We're also honored to have Justin Bannon, the founder of Boson Protocol, as one of our mentors. So this is definitely a huge value add for the teams. So I personally see Metaverse as the new paradigm for digital identity to be expressed and a new phase of commercial activity for human culture. Commerce protocols like Boson is an essential piece of that puzzle that can demonstrate to broader audiences what we already kind of know at OV, that Metaverse goes beyond the visual components that are stunning and beyond the virtual environments. It's a new way for humans to interact, for communities to form, and for companies to better understand and cater to customer needs. What I'm particularly excited about is, Lorna already mentioned that the gradual adoption coming from big, let's say, luxury brands that are slowly moving away from marketing budgets into operational budgets and thinking about Web3 much more strategically than they used to, which is amazing to see and kind of shows their wisdom in the space. On a cultural level, it's a bit about the conversion of different technologies like AI, blockchain, NFT, AR, all coming into one spot that kind of is a jumping point for the next phase of adoption. I'm also excited about native brands coming out of Web3 and trying to establish themselves as a new definition of luxury. And on a very personal level, I'm super excited about empowerment of individuals through data ownership and self-sovereignty in Web3.
Very cool. So there's some great sort of themes and trends coming through there that we'll tap into. And the first one I wanted to talk about was around this idea of identity. And well, we've talked we have a physical identity and we have a digital, the classic framing of the avatar, right? The digital me. I'm interested in sort of each of your perspective, anyone who wants to jump in on that idea of digital expression and how your sort of physical self and your meta self, if you like, combine and interact.
Well, I can start because one of the ideas of DressX was actually to help people with their digital identity. So with the digital fashion, we say that you can that you have an opportunity to express yourself more freely, because on one side, digital fashion is provide the opportunity for the designers to express their creativity and go beyond the physicality, to think beyond the gravity or whatever we have in our world and create amazing pieces like flaming things or things which fly instead of like absolutely thinking beyond. I like this, thinking beyond the physicality of the things. And this is one side. So when you express your creativity as a creator and you are doing something in digital space which has not any connection or think differently from the physical world. And the other hand of this self-expression and physical and digital identity is actually the consumers, the users who will use these pieces to express themselves. And with the digital identity, digital me, digital avatar, we can be whoever we want to be. We can feel freely, we can express ourselves more freely, and we can select any visual representation of ourselves. We don't need to go to the plastic surgery or to apply makeup or whatever. And we can do this with digital tools. And I think that digital fashion and digital creativity can help us. And I think that this is the beauty of the world we're having right now, to create and to try different identities and to be someone different and try different things, to feel more freely. And I think it's very beautiful, and I'm very happy that we are creating this world right now together and give this this tool for people.
Can I go next? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to follow up on what Olga said, because I hear some great points there. As Olga pointed out, people seek to almost redefine or maybe restructure their identity within the digital space. What I'm also particularly excited about is that Web3 gives access to people to free expression, where perhaps it's not fully allowed in their geographies. Perhaps they cannot wear the clothes that they would like to wear, or even apply the makeup they wished. And Web3 gives them a new channel to express that identity. Something we also see is that people can have very different personality in the digital world. And what's particularly exciting and interesting for me, also from the data perspective, is that their digital personas might have entirely different commercial habits and pattern of consumer behavior. In many ways, for companies, it's an opportunity to rediscover their customers from a totally different side, and kind of engage them in the field of Web3 through different iterations of how they can build out that relationship they have with existing and new customers through Web3.
Saf, go ahead.
I'd like to echo with what Blake just mentioned. It's really interesting to see that people have a different identity in the digital side. Like they choose different clothing to express themselves in the digital world. And I think that let's be real, there's a gap between the Web3 or the virtual self and the physical self that we're having right now. And until we have some hardware like the movie Ready Player One, we can sense and feel the world, we still don't really feel that engaged or that interactive with the virtual world right now. So I think company like DressX or some other companies doing something Web 2.5 is like just bridging the Web 2 and Web 3 right now. And I think this phase is necessary. So we're seeing people expressing themselves on social media, and like some of those bridging physical goods, like maybe concert merchandise. We're seeing companies doing like chips to like incorporating in the clothing and the fabrics, and you can just scan and you can get an NFT. It's like a digital store like that you can bring offline to online. This something like this is what we're seeing, and I think is a like crucial stage and like a transition phase that we have to go through before we can go fully digital and talk about like flying suits or like fire speeding jackets or whatever. And I think we're in a really like interesting time right now, seeing the change and driving the change together.
Thanks. Lon, you something to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone on the panel has done a great job in chatting about this. So I'm not sure how much I really truly do have to add, but I will add one last little piece. We hold our team meetings twice a week in Spatial as an example, and it's pretty fun to watch all my teammates come in and dress in different outfits all the time and play with their own expression in those meetings. And I think it's just amazing at the early days. And I think to the point of the outfits, I mean, you could express yourself in a game very differently than you might express yourself in a work environment. And those options and those abilities allow you to really, play with how you want to express yourself and when you want to express yourself. And I think that's the amazing part of this digital world.
And so, I mean, one of the interesting sort of points I guess you all raised there was around the opportunity for self-expression in this unencumbered by the physical world, I guess. I'm interested in that relationship between brands from the real world, if you like, and this new sort of paradigm of brands coming up from truly digitally native, let's call it, and what their kind of commercialization strategies are that you're seeing, and what opportunities do you think there might be? I mean, declare an interest with Boson. Part of our protocol is enabling digitals, and we see a lot of interest for people releasing like rare collections, that have a physical component and that have a digital component. Now, that's sort of we see two sort of main groups of potential sort of seller or merchant, if you like, coming online, brand, one of whom are digital natives who are sort of coming from the internet out, and the other group is sort of major global brands coming from the world in, if you like. And what do you have any reflections on that, or sort of what the opportunities are, or the sort of emerging opportunities for commercialization of Web3? Sounds awful, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll start again. I think there are different strategies, and one of them is actually, like you mentioned, to go into the phygital experience. So when you have the physical item and you are creating the digital twin of this item, and you can brand it absolutely different. So you can have like an addition to the digital twin, and you can add some animation, or you can add some different layers where you can use this digital item, not like wearing on the photos, or to bring them to the Roblox, to the Decentraland, or any other universe. And in this case, you are going to target different audience. So, for example, we know that Gen Z, they probably not so care much about the brands and the luxury brands. But if they starting to see the luxury brand which is selling their items in the Roblox, or selling their items in Decentraland, then they become used to these brands in this gaming, in this Web3 environments. And when they grow up and they will go to the shop and they will see two different brands, and one they used to see when they were playing games, and the second one they don't know what is it, and it might be two luxury brands, and they will definitely go to the first brand that they played with it, and maybe at the beginning for the brands it's not so much about commercialization but more like R&D and pioneering and entering the space, but later on, like maybe in 3 years, in 5 years, they will start to see the return on the investment with the new, absolutely new generation of the customers. So yeah, mixing physical and digital, or creating purely digital collections to attract the new customers, to introduce this to Gen Z, to this absolutely new customers. This is another way.
Thanks. Lorne, let's turn the order around a bit. Let's mix it up, Lorne.
Sure. So thank you. I'll take it a slightly different path than Olga and talk about the utility piece of it. So I think what's really interesting is what you can do on the utility side and I'll choose it more, can be, native, or it can be, an already existing brand. But I love to pick on my 13-year-old son Aiden, who loves his Nike shoes. And at the end of the day, he's going to be really interested when he gets into whatever gamified experience that he is to buy those, call it Nike NFTs, because at the end of the day, if there's a utility driven to it. So does that utility mean he actually gets the physical goods? So we're getting into the digital world and he gets delivered those Air Jordans to our house against my better will, or does he actually get a chance to meet the designer, the person actually designed that particular pair of Nike shoes? And so I'm really getting unique utility out of that. Or do I get to meet the celebrity, whoever that basketball player is, for example, that actually wears those pair of shoes at a basketball game or something like that? And so I think, as you drive utility more into these wearables, as opposed to just selling them, as PFPs, that's the future of the brand. And that's how you drive loyalty and one-to-one marketing into this and make it really interesting from a commercialization perspective and a consumer perspective. And certainly, we have plenty of ongoing conversations with brands about those types of things.
I want to talk about another perspective. I think actually the commercialization or the monetization opportunity for Web3 is more important for small designers than for big brands. I mean, for big brands, of course, they have the audience, they have big marketing budget to spend anyway. So, I mean, to them, it's like an extra, like a path or like a little experiment that they do, but it's not their bread and butter. Like at the end of the day, I mean, it's not yet there, right? But I think for some of the smaller designers, like they do have a chance to make their way to gain some popularity. They don't have to be million followers or whatsoever to have their name to be put on the fashion scene right now. They can just have a small loyal community that are really into their products or the brands, and then they can make the name out there. I think it's the true beauty for Web3, and I think this kind of commercialization helped them a lot. And some kind of co-creation is what I like about this Web3 creative scene as well, because having the community joining, giving feedback to the designers, especially to the young and new designers, are something really beautiful to see. And I think it's going to be a game changer and make the big brands think about what their approach would be in the long run as well. Because, for those big brands, especially luxury brands, co-creation is definitely not in the equation right now. So I think it's going to be something really interesting to see in the near future.
Great. Would love to add to that, although my perspective might be a bit biased by my passion and timing, because we just closed applications for the next edition of the Farfetch Dream Assembly Basecamp. So I just had an opportunity to speak to so many amazing entrepreneurs in the luxury and fashion space that apply Web3 technology. And also we're about to launch the program. So I would say the key opportunities that I see right now come from luxury data economy, essentially bringing the brand closer to the consumer by optimizing different aspects of the data supply chain in that commercial relationship, maybe by working through CRMs, reinventing CRM models, working with Web 2 and Web 3 data streams, wallet data. I think that's really exciting and maybe technologically challenging, but definitely a huge payout to be made there. Another aspect that gets me really excited, which is quite a big topic everywhere now, but particularly in the fashion and luxury space, is community tooling and experience. Any way to reinvent the way communities get formed, the way communities interact between one another, and the user experience of actually being part of the community, and also kind of linking it to what Zaf said, some co-creation models in there as well. I am super excited about infrastructure that enables the growth of digital fashion. I think Boson Protocol is an amazing example. Anything that enables the scale and maturity of ecosystem to get to the next stage, growing the pie bigger for everyone. I'm super passionate about expanding on self-expression through adding more utility to digital assets, to avatars, essentially giving you more things to do with those beautiful avatars and those beautiful wearables that we're already enjoying, and also maybe helping those assets travel across virtual environments on a more technical level. And finally, sustainability through Web3. Of course, digital clothing is way more sustainable than physical clothing, which is a major pollutant right now. And I know a lot of brands are trying to kind of fight against that. But the way I look at it is actually maybe more standard use cases of blockchain. Let's say like putting forward a standard for digital authentication of provenance, which would extend the life cycle of the luxury product, essentially giving it a longer life and making it more useful for more generations of people, and also having the brand not have that data relationship with the consumer cut by a secondary sale, which I believe now is the case. If I buy a Louis Vuitton bag from Zaf, Louis Vuitton has no idea I exist, even though I am clearly in the market for their assets, but they know nothing about me. So I think these are opportunities of immense opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. And, secondary royalties for physical items, is something that we're working on Boson, as I imagine, Blake, and I think that's it. That sort of that connection with the creator is a really interesting and sort of powerful thing. And we're running up on time now, so I just want to give you one last little sort of piece of stimulus and sort of take from this what you want. I was just really struck by a couple of things that people have been talking about. So this idea of sort of from innovation theatre, and I think we saw that and we benefited over the last couple of years from a lot of that, to productivity, from PR to utility, and that idea of introducing this sort of utilities into Web3. In particular, I guess one thing we talk about is sort of NFTs with superpowers, right? And I think whether it's the NFT itself or whether it's sort of enabling interactions and connections that weren't possible before. So I'm interested in all of your sense of where that's going next, I guess, and especially in particular, because I know we have a few different views around the table. Like, what does that mean for sort of disruptors, new entrants to the market, digitally native brands and sort of established brands, or sort of market incumbents? And there's a little bit of a cloud there. I'm just curious to get your sort of final thoughts and final predictions. And thank you so much for all contributions so far. Zaf, why don't you go first? Zaf, maybe you're having a connection problem. Why don't we hear from Blake?
All right. So it's kind of a loaded question, right? But I think it takes two to tango. It takes both nimble, fast-moving innovators that move through quick iterations and have that ability to maybe change and shift their focus. But at the same time, on the other hand, you have more established big brands that in the end of the day, they guide the popular thinking about the mass adoption. For me, the real adoption would happen when you actually use the superpowers of NFTs that you mentioned without actually knowing there is an NFT at play, that it no longer becomes a novelty that attracts the attention of people, but it's actually the utility that brings the mass adoption. The same way, right now we don't pay much attention to using HTTP, but back in the day, I'm sure it was big news. So to me, the real adoption is where all of the novelty is silenced and actually all of the people get to benefit from the utility that the technology brings.
I think, Blake, after your answer, we don't have any more to add, because I absolutely agree with you that we will have the mass adoption when we won't even think that it's NFT, and the such versus a crypto wallet or like entering the blockchain wouldn't scare people. And I think that little by little NFT right now we can see it already. Right now it's becoming like the token gate experience. So when you have the NFT, you are getting not only like the digital asset, but you are having all the experience around it. And we've discussed it today already couple of times, but it's giving you the opportunity to enter some kind of small community where you can get certain things, and just because you are the holder of the NFT. And the more utilities this NFT is bringing to you, the more interest will come to people. And yes, finally, we will come to the point where NFT is so common that we don't even think that we're using them, but we're using them. And it's becoming like so normal of our life, and these small communities talking, get experiences, etc.
Cool. Zap,
I'm back.
you with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree with what Blake and Olga said about like when people don't realize that they're NFTs and they're still using it, then I guess we have to win. I think the key right now for mass adoption is that like what kind of problem are we actually solving? Like, for example, the physical, the chip that I have mentioned earlier, I think like it has a really good application, for example, in a concert or in like a music festival merch side, like for example, right? Because for the organizer, they never got data of like who purchased the merch at the concert or at the music festival. People pay by cash or pay by credit card at the spot, and no one actually knows who buys what, right? And like having this kind of data would help the brands to, for example, identify the true fans or identify the loyal fans who buy all your merch, and then you can just wear the merch and go into like an after party or a VIP party with your merch just by like scanning, and you can go in. This kind of like application solving real life problem, I think would be the key to unlock some of the potentials. And this is just like one example, but the point is, I think this is like truly solving some for example, data missing points or real life application would be the key for adoption. And people shouldn't realize that by buying the merch, they have an NFT. They just have to know that they have a token to unlock some of the experience. And maybe they can bring this merch to online experience later in the metaverse, but without talking about NFT this, NFT that. And I think that would be the ideal and what we'll be seeing in the coming 1 or 2 years.
So I guess that leaves me for last to and it's hard after coming after the three of you to add really a ton more to this, it seems like, but I will say, we've all picked on, getting more mass adoption, getting more people to come and join it. And I think that really one thing we really got to address that from is a user experience, the consumer experience. And I think the more we make these experiences fun and gamified and unique, the more we'll be able to drive people to use these technologies and to participate in these events. And we really need to get there to drive the masses. And so today we're scratching the surface. We started off, like I said, I think earlier with PFPs, and now we're starting to evolve and bring much more utility. And I think utility as well as fun, as well as bringing in real world experiences in conjunction with digital experiences, all of those need to come together in order to drive that user experience, which I think is something all four of us, have really talked about a lot today.
Awesome. Well, we're up on time now. Thanks so much, everyone, for your contributions. Yeah, and I think this is an area that obviously we're all very, very passionate about at Boson. Our redeemable NFTs essentially enable people to do a whole bunch of these sorts of things, right? So one, you hold the NFT in your wallet, you have the right to that physical item. As a seller, one of the things that we're really excited about is being able to offer exclusive community rewards through token gating or naturally built in, and digitals, the physical item and digital item paired together is a big part of what we're doing. So appreciate you all taking the time and spending the time with us this afternoon. And thanks everyone in Decentraland and who's watching on the stream. That's us for now. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.